Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rice Public Radio. It's been a couple weeks since I last recorded. I apologize. I ran into a very busy time at work, and which really prevented me from really hammering down an episode. But this week, I got a little bit more time, so I just want to record something. And, well, what I want to talk about is I went to a Justice and Safety Challenge workshop that was organized by the San Francisco District Attorney's Office. So I just wanted to share my thoughts and what the people in this workshop talked about and what I think the right and proper way to move forward will be. This Justice and Safety Challenge workshop, it was attended by many representatives of San Francisco's different criminal justice agencies, including Sheriff Vicki Hennessy of the Sheriff's Department. There were members of the Police Department, Public Defender's Office, DAs, members of community-based organizations like Live Memorial Church, Felton Institute, as well as people from, healthcare providers in San Francisco like UCSF and the Department of Public Health. So it was just a gathering of really great minds, professionals, and managers in the field, and I learned a lot. But there are some things that I want to critique, and that's the purpose of this recording, this podcast. So this workshop focused on the issues of homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse, and how these issues intersect with our criminal justice system. So there was some really interesting discussion going around, and I, learned a great bit about the services that we have in San Francisco. So during this discussions, there are some great points raised by individuals talking about the need for more, residential treatment beds in San Francisco. Obviously we need individuals to be stabilized. We need people to have shelter so they can receive treatment. It's really difficult to follow through on, your groups or meeting with your case manager or doing what you got to do to stay sober or stay compliant on caseload. If you don't have that shelter in place, you're going to be worrying about where you're going to sleep at night, whether your stuff's going to get stolen when you sleep. And, what if it's raining or there's some sort of inclement weather? How are you going to take care of yourself? So having shelter beds in place, the expansion of shelter beds, residential treatment facilities, this is all good. I really like this. Especially for, how this relates to criminal justice. The jail is not the proper place for people with substance abuse or mental health issues. Generally, it can even exacerbate them. So having these treatment options available, not only is it going to help these individuals, but there's a place for them to go instead of being incarcerated. That's not where they belong. Substance abuse issues and mental health issues, those are health issues. Moreover, another important point that was brought up in this workshop was there's this fine line between incarceration and 5150 temporary institutionalization of mentally unstable individuals. There's a lot of individuals suffering from homelessness and mental health issues in San Francisco. Sometimes they might not fit the criteria of, needing to be sent to the hospital for 3 days, for stabilization purposes because they're a threat to the public or themselves, but they can still be a public safety hazard or a threat to someone in the community or themselves. People suggested cool down, I'm going to say a quote, cool down facility where people can just chill out, where they can stabilize instead of, if they don't meet that criteria for being, 5150'd, they can go to this cool down, this chill facility where they can just relax, calm down. There's going to be case managers there, clinicians, people there that can, provide services or de-escalation. Now, these are all wonderful suggestions, and I learned a great deal about San Francisco services in this workshop. There are a lot of great minds, a lot of people who have their hearts in the right place, a lot of, knowledge, intelligence, and so forth and so on. But what I want to focus on is we really have to take a step back and look at the causes of these issues. Mental health, substance use, homelessness. This is going to be a continual challenge. And it's not good enough to just be reactionary, where you're just addressing the serious problems that people are having. You really have to take a proactive stance and look at why these things are occurring in the first place. You can have all the case managers you want. You can have a low, case load. I mean, you can have a low, like, caseworker to client ratio. You can have shelters. You can have residential treatment beds. But these issues are going to keep coming up. People are going to still use substances. People are going to have mental health issues. People are not going to be stably housed. We have to look at the root causes. Now let's talk about substance use. A lot of folks are self-medicating. They're using drugs as a way to cope with the terrible things that they are experiencing. Now it could be trauma, homelessness, pain, anger, mental illness. It could just be living a tough life on the streets. It's super hard and traumatic. It's so dehumanizing. Similarly, people experiencing mental illness, I think it's influenced by environmental factors like their ties to the community, loss of a job, struggling relationships between friends and family, debt, and so on. Now, obviously, there's going to be health conditions that can't be prevented that are not exactly tied to your environment, like dementia, Alzheimer's. Those things, they just happen, and those things are really tragic and terrible as well. But I want to point out things like stress, anxiety, depression, anger, loneliness. I think these can be at least prevented from occurring or mitigated by the right environmental circumstances. We can talk all day about our economic system. There's a wealth of literature out there, or YouTube videos, whatever, that talks about this. So I'm just going to try to point out the gravity of the situation, what we're dealing with, in a short, succinct way. I think this is all tied to our capitalist system. There's a lot to criticize, but really, in short, our economic system drives the conditions that are affecting or causing the use of substances, aggravating and causing mental health issues to form. And contrary to, what our media says, we are not living in a good economy. We're not living in a good society. Half of all Americans make $30,000 or less. 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency. We have over 500,000 medical bankruptcies a year. There's over $1 trillion in student loan debt. And over 80 million individuals lack or are underinsured in terms of medical insurance. We have stagnating wages since the 1970s. We have low union membership, which is correlated with declining wages or stagnant wages. Kind of in the social front, we have parents working multiple jobs where they're not there to take care of their kids. We have our small towns and our rural communities devastated by the loss of jobs being shipped off to other countries, factories being closed down. We have people moving away for employment. We have, there's this emphasis on individualism and competition between each others to get, to make it in this world. So our social circles are fractured as well. There's so many things wrong with this country. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say that people are experiencing high levels of stress, anxiety, depression, substance use when confronted with these challenges, these extreme momentous struggles. That's why we have so many people in need of help or needing to find release. Some turn to clinicians, like a therapist or a psychologist. Some turn to drugs like alcohol. Some even turn to suicide. It's extremely sad, and it's tragic. It hits me even deeper because I'm from San Francisco. You see this underclass of individuals who are homeless, are unstably housed, who may work on and off. They might have mental illness, substance abuse. And these people are completely shunned and ignored from our media, from society. It just hurts so bad when I'm walking through, Market Street or the South of Market neighborhood or the Tenderloin, and you see that there's so much suffering, there's so much misery, that there's so many people who need help out there. I totally agree that we need these services in place, but we have to look deeper. We have to address these issues by looking at the root causes. So when I hear people talking about more shelter beds, residential treatment facilities, diverting people away from the criminal justice system, of course I agree with them. I love those ideas. I want that to happen. We simply can't treat the symptoms of these issues. These issues, I believe, are the symptoms of a bigger problem of our economic system as a whole. I know it's easier said than done. It's not going to come from the people who are in this work group, the professionals, the managers, because they're tied to institutions. You can have the most noble, ferocious, tenacious fighter in these institutions, but these institutions are greater than one person. You can even say they're greater than the sum of its parts. And they're functioning for a singular purpose. So if you try to go against the purpose of that institution, you're going to get crushed. The solutions to this, the challenge to capitalism, has to come from the working class. It has to come from the bottom up, like a grassroots movement. Band-aid solutions, as good as they are, they're not going to work forever. These challenges are going to persist if we don't go straight to the heart of the problem, which is our economic system.